Yes, sir.
Stanford was spending 74% of grants from NIH on overhead. Remember that?
I do, although I was in high school at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't. and they audited Stanford.
Yes, sir.
You remember what they found?
They bought a sailboat.
They found that Stanford was spending some of that money to pay the salaries of the employees at a Stanford-owned shopping center, didn't they?
I don't remember that part.
I do.
But yeah.
They found that Stanford was spending some of that money that was supposed to go to research, ladies and gentlemen, to renovate the president's home.
Yes, sir.
Didn't they?
I believe so, Senator. Again.
And to renovate the vice provost's home, too, didn't they?
I believe you when you say that. Yes.
And they also charged, Stanford took NIH research money to help children and applied it to depreciation on a Stanford yacht, didn't they?
Let me set the scene. A congressional hearing room, microphones hot, and Senator John Kennedy locked in on a question that matters to every American who pays taxes, especially if you care about science and medical breakthroughs. With the scene set, let's jump right into the hearing.
Senator Kennedy.
Dr. Parikh, am I saying that right?
You are.
Thank you. Do you know anybody who's against biomedical research?
I do not know anybody that's against biomedical research, but I know some.
That's like being against children, isn't it?
It is.
It's like being against world peace, isn't it?
It is.
It's like being against golden retrievers, isn't it?
There's some people that argue there.
Okay. Well, let's get that out of the way. I want to ask you about NIH. I love NIH. I think they do extraordinary work.
Yes, sir.
But isn't it a fact if NIH assigns way too much money for overhead, that money comes out of the basic research? Isn't that the case?
Senator, both those things are providing funds for research. And I agree with you that we need to make the administrative burden and the costs associated with it as low as possible, because we do want as much to go to
Well, why
research.
can't NIH live with 15% overhead?
Yeah. Senator, we have had a partnership that's been going on for 75 years in this country.
Yes, sir, but why can't NIH live with 15% overhead?
At this point, what that would do is actually turn institutions like the ones we've heard about here, it would actually make it to where they are laying off researchers and the support folks who are
Well, the
supporting
Gates
that work.
Foundation, when they make grants, they limit overhead to 10%, don't they?
They do, sir, but that is apples to oranges because they count different things.
And
in
the
the
Roberts
overhead.
Woods Johnson Foundation limits overhead to 12%, don't they?
They do. Again, apples to oranges because they count different things.
Isn't it a fact that the universities that receive the most money from NIH also have the biggest endowments?
I haven't checked that, but it probably is true, Senator. And I agree with you. There are challenges that we need to work
Well,
on.
let's take Harvard. 69 cents out of every dollar from NIH given to Harvard goes to overhead.
No, sir, it's 69 cents out of every $1.69. It's on top of, it's not within.
Okay. Which is 1.6. Let me ask you about one of the worst abuses I've ever seen. It was at Stanford.
Yes, sir.
Stanford was spending 74% of grants from NIH on overhead. Remember that?
I do, although I was in high school at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't. and they audited Stanford.
Yes, sir.
You remember what they found?
They bought a sailboat.
They found that Stanford was spending some of that money to pay the salaries of the employees at a Stanford-owned shopping center, didn't they?
I don't remember that part. No,
I
sir,
do.
but yeah, okay.
they found that Stanford was spending some of that money that was supposed to go to research, ladies and gentlemen, to renovate the president's home.
Yes, sir.
Didn't they?
I believe so, Senator. Again.
And to renovate the vice provost's home, too, didn't they?
I believe you when you say that. Yes.
And they also charged, Stanford took NIH research money to help children and applied it to depreciation on a Stanford yacht, didn't they?
Yes, sir. Again, when I was in high school, sir.
Now, does NIH audit every year the way these grants are being spent?
They don't audit every year. There's a process for
So
determining.
they just trust the universities?
No, there's a negotiation that takes place between
Yes,
the
sir,
NIH
but if it's a
and the
5-year grant
university. Yes, sir.
and they agree on indirect costs, they don't audit it every year. What if the universities lie to them?
That is absolutely a possibility.
What does fungible mean?
Fungible means that you can move money from one place to another.
And money's fungible, isn't it?
Money is fungible.
I'm ready to have a productive discussion. I've got to go to another committee. Maybe you'll have it today. I haven't heard it.
Yes, sir.
What I've heard is the implication is that anybody who is against asking hard questions about the overhead and spending is against biomedical research.
I wouldn't say that, sir. I think you are a champion.
And I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I don't either.
But every penny that we spend on overhead that's not being audited, and you know as much as I do, Doc, that some of it is being abused, is money that is taken away from research. And that's just a fact.
Senator,
And if you care about this child here, and I know you do, we all do, then any money spent illegitimately on overhead to pay the salary of a professor in the humanities department at a university is coming out of her research. And it's not wrong to ask questions.
it is not wrong to ask
No,
questions.
it's not.
Not at all. And Senator, I think it's actually important to ask those questions and optimize the system.
And I don't understand why these universities cannot live on 15% overhead when Gates Foundation limits them to 10% and the Johnson Foundation limits them to 12%. I don't understand it. All of a sudden, if they don't get 35% overhead, civilization is going to melt.
It is important.
My
to have
mama
that
didn't
conversation.
raise a fool, and if she did, it was one of my brothers.
Let's get one thing clear. Just like Senator Kennedy did, this isn't an attack on science or on the researchers out there chasing cures and fighting diseases. I think we all agree, the NIH, our National Institutes of Health, does life-saving, world-changing work. But where the money goes, well, that's a question worth asking. And that's exactly what Kennedy's grilling is about. He's got a simple point. Every extra dollar spent on overhead, the admin, the buildings, the stuff that isn't actually science, is a dollar not spent on research. Kennedy wants to know if private foundations like Gates and Robert Wood Johnson can cap overhead at 10, maybe 12%. Why can't our government do the same? Why not cap NIH overhead at 15% and make the most of every taxpayer dollar? The witness, representing Stanford, pushes back. Overhead pays for things that keep the lights on. Labs, compliance, even janitors. Cut that too much, he says, and you risk layoffs or even slowing down research itself. So there's a real tension here, efficiency versus stability. But Kennedy doesn't let up. He points out, hey, those private foundations manage to squeeze more research out of every buck. The Stanford rep insists it's apples and oranges, says the way the government counts costs isn't the same. Still, doesn't the question stick with you? If foundations can do it, why can't Uncle Sam? And then, Kennedy drops the bombshell past scandals at Stanford. NIH money used for things like housing makeovers, shopping centers, even, get this, a yacht. The witness tries to wave that off as old history, but Kennedy's point lands hard. These grants, they're not audited every year. A lot of it comes down to trust. Here's what I'm thinking. The schools that get the most NIH cash are usually the ones with the biggest endowments. If anyone can handle a little less in overhead, it's them. When overhead gets bloated, or worse, abused, the price isn't just in dollars, it's in fewer experiments, fewer breakthroughs, slower progress for patients and families waiting for hope. So here's the bottom line. Asking how our tax dollars are spent isn't anti-science, it's about accountability. Kennedy's message: every unmonitored dollar means less medicine, less discovery, less progress. Supporting science means making sure the money gets to the people actually doing the work. If you found this breakdown useful, don't forget to hit subscribe. There's plenty more to uncover, and your tax dollars deserve answers.